There we go.
All right. Hey, everybody. Looks like Rand's got her little zoo going there today. So looks like we're going to, we know that Damien's off at Boy Scout camp, so he'll be watching this later. We have Janice and Rand with us today. And I don't think Tom said he might join us. He's on duty today at the fire station. I know Kevin, he's not going to be able to join us today because he's got an after action review he's doing on an incident we had a couple weeks ago. So and Amy's joining us here. Why don't we, hello. Why don't we go ahead and switch the screens, give me this control of the screen. So we're going to walk through a PowerPoint today. It's a live version, so well, you really do have a zoo going there, Rand. All right, you want to share the screen?
It's done.
Okay, well, Lexi's on.
Great.
Has Lexi been on before? I don't remember Lexi being on with me.
Yes, she was on with Amy.
Okay. So, and I didn't have a chance to go back and see what Amy had talked about with respect to, I mean, I know generally what would have been covered, but we're going to talk about emergency management more and emergency preparedness, but we're going to probably do a little bit of a deeper dive than what was done the first time you talked about emergency and disasters and whatnot. And this is going to be kind of a prelude, an introduction to what we're going to be doing the rest of the week, where we're going to talk about the actual what emergency management is and what the role of an emergency manager is. We're going to talk about a emergency operations center and what they do in an emergency operations center, and how emergency operations center, and specifically a state emergency operations center, supports an incident that's going on in the state. So today's work will build upon what we're doing for the rest of the week. So I really wanted to start off this morning. We talked a little bit about disasters, but yesterday, but I wanted to ask you all if any of you have experienced a disaster or a major emergency. Anybody?
Go ahead and put it in the chat box.
I can't see the chat.
I'll let you know.
All right. Anybody? You're experiencing it. Pardon?
I haven't.
You have not?
I haven't, but one of my family members in India, I think last summer there was like huge floods there. So like it got like it didn't destroy their house, but it got like inside their house a lot and everything.
Okay. Well, actually, we're all going through a disaster right now. The COVID-19 pandemic is a national disaster. We talked about the types of disasters yesterday. Anybody recall what those types were? Anybody? Different types of disasters.
Rayanne says they had a huge flood about 5 years ago.
Oh, okay. Well, Rayanne, what did you do? Did you have to evacuate your home?
No, we actually just stayed in our house. It was flooded on the street and everything, so we couldn't really get away from our house.
Okay. How did you feel about it? Were you worried? Did you feel confident? Did you feel like you knew what to do and that you were prepared for it?
No, Mama.
Okay. I'm afraid to open, so I didn't know if you were tempted, and if you did, that's fine.
No, Mama. I never opened any.
Fran, can you hear me? All right. Well, I'm going to, pardon? Is that background noise, where's that coming from?
I think that's Danielle.
Oh, okay. All right. So, Rand, did you hear my,
Daniel, I'm gonna mute. Oh, okay. Never mind. I think he's muted now. Okay.
okay.
Rand says, my mom says, yeah, because we were confident and because she has a good mom.
Okay, good deal.
That would be true.
All right, good deal. No, I know your mom also, and I think you do have a good mom. So we have three major types of disasters. We have natural disasters, right? And those are any major adverse event resulting from a natural process. What types of disasters are natural disasters? What kinds? What specific kinds?
Thunderstorm, landslide, drought.
Right. So the earthquakes, right? Tornadoes, winter storms, those are all natural disasters. Technological are events caused by a malfunction of a technological structure and or some human error in controlling or handling the technology. Give me some examples of a technological disaster. Anybody? Janice? Janice, what about the pollution in the water supply there in Michigan? Would that be a technological?
Yeah, it would, or like oil spills or something along those lines.
Right, oil spills. It could be a nuclear power plant emergency. Any kind of hazardous materials event is a technological. It could cause a technological emergency or disaster. Then what about intention?
Oh, Damien's with us.
Hey, Damien, how'd you join us from camp? Is he typing?
Not yet.
Okay. So we have intentional, and those are designed to cause harm, such as acts of terrorism. So like on 9/11, which brought down the Twin Towers, and the aircraft struck the Pentagon. Those were intentional acts. Let's take a look at this list here, and I'm going to just ask you to tell me whether it's a natural, technological, or intentional. Blackouts. Janice just suffered a blackout yesterday for several hours. Janice, what type of disaster is a blackout?
I think it'll be technical or technological.
Technological. It's a technological. It could be caused by a natural. It could be caused by weather. And frankly, most often they are caused by weather. It's caused by high wind and bringing down power lines. But the actual event is a technological one. How about drought? Rand mentioned drought as a type of natural one, right? Earthquakes?
Natural.
Yeah, it's extreme heat.
Natural.
Floods?
Natural.
Okay, so floods is another one of those things. Like a flood is a natural event, generally speaking, but it can be caused by a failure of technology. So say you have a dam that fails as a result of just poor construction, not because of weather, but because it just it was poorly constructed. That would be a technological disaster that really resulted in the flooding. Home fires. Natural? Home fires are generally technological. A home fire can be caused by a weather event. You could have a home that's struck by lightning and cause the home fire, but it's generally a technological emergency. And generally it's not a disaster. It's a disaster to those people that live there. But unless it spreads to become a very large fire, like a conflagration where it takes out many city blocks, a home fire is just generally considered an emergency and not a disaster. Hurricane. Natural. Landslides and debris flow.
Natural.
Yeah. Space weather. We talked about space weather yesterday. That's natural, right? Thunderstorms and lightning, natural. Tornadoes, tsunamis, volcanoes, those are all natural, right? How about wildfires? Yeah, wildfires are also a natural. Now, they can be caused by technological. A lot of these large California wildfires are caused by a failure of power lines. We have old power lines that in high winds, the lines drop and they spark an arc and they cause a wildfire. So it could be caused by technology, but the wildfire itself is a natural event or a natural disaster. Winter storms, of course, are natural disasters. Your exercise last night, your homework assignment was to identify the most frequent type of natural disaster where you live. And so let's do that one first. Rand, did you take a look at that?
Texas is actually known for having the most variety of natural disasters. But around our area, the most frequent would be thunderstorms, drought, or extreme heat.
Okay. Janice, how about you?
In Michigan, it's winter storms and extreme cold, because sometimes there's really bad blizzards here, and during the winter months is the worst time to come to Michigan.
Yeah, we share that with you. You said Damien's on, right? Damien,
Yeah, but he says he didn't see the video yet for yesterday, and he said natural. Does that natural sometimes for your answer to the question, and most of the time.
Okay. How about Daniel? Did you take a look at the activity, Daniel?
Daniel said thunderstorms in Milwaukee.
All right. Lexi, you able to take a look at the exercise for today? That's the activity.
Lexi says one of the most natural disasters where she lives is floods.
All right. Where does Lexi live?
Milwaukee also, I think.
Okay.
Is that right, Lexi?
All right. So the next question was, what's the worst natural disaster in your state's history? We'll start with Ryan again.
The worst natural disaster in our history was actually a hurricane that hit Galveston on September 8th and 9th in 1900. the wind was like 145 miles per hour, and it caused like 12,000 deaths.
Okay. You know, actually, it raises an interesting. Yesterday, I was actually asking or expecting one of you to ask me the question, what do you mean by worst? Because there's different ways to judge these, right? Worst could mean by the number of deaths, or it could be the amount of property damage, or it could be the damage to the economy, or you know the long term financial loss. So most often when we talk about the worst natural disaster, more often than not, we're talking about the one that caused the most deaths, the most destruction overall, and killed the most people. So,
Yeah.
but I'm certainly open to any that you think are the worst disaster in your state's history. Denise, what about you?
In Michigan, there was the Thumb Fire, which is also known as the Great Michigan Fire, and it destroyed like over 1 million acres. And like the Thumb of Michigan, that area, it's basically different now than it was before the fire. So
Okay.
it changed the landscape a lot.
Do you know when that occurred?
It occurred in 1881.
Okay, great. Do you know how many people were killed then?
I think it was more than 282 people.
Okay. Thank you.
So in the chat box, Lexi just moved to Philly not so long ago, and she said that there was a flood there.
Okay.
And Damien responded and said that he was supposed to be cooking, but he had to get on this instead. And Rayanne says that her natural disaster was the worst by death and damage, $104.3 billion worth of damage.
Oh, wow. That is a lot.
Yeah.
So, so then Daniel, is he responding?
Damien said my senior patrol leader said that he could stop cooking and be on the Zoom call.
Well, that's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. How about Daniel? Is he responding?
Daniel says the Peshtigo fire in Wisconsin, 2,500, and it was 10/8/1871.
Yep, that's right. The Peshtigo fire actually occurred the same day as the Great Chicago Fire, but nobody heard about it because you have newspapers in Chicago and no newspapers up in the Peshtigo area. But it was actually to this day it's still the worst wildfire in terms of lives lost, the deadliest wildfire in the United States. So. And it burned also burned about 1.2 million acres, like the Great Michigan Fire there. So we've in Wisconsin we are noted for our flooding, mostly weather events. In fact, we're not known for, even though our worst disaster ever was a wildfire. We have hundreds of wildfires a year. They're all very, very small. Generally speaking, it takes a drought year in Wisconsin to have a large wildfire. The Peshtigo fire occurred in a period of multi-year drought. Our disasters are usually weather related, and they're tornadoes or straight line winds or flooding. And we've been dealing with a lot of flooding to the extent that it's even raised our groundwater here in the state. So we don't have a lot of room for more water. Well, thanks, guys. That was great. I appreciate you going through that exercise. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you a prelude into what your activity for tomorrow is, because it's going to build off what you did here. You all just identify what your most frequent or your worst natural disaster was, I'm going to ask you to take one of those and become the expert. So tomorrow, for tomorrow's activity, for tonight's activity to report back on, I want you to do just a few minute report tomorrow. You can do a PowerPoint slide, or you can do a graphic picture with just some facts or whatnot, or you can just do a verbal report. But it'd be neat if you did some kind of visual. Is take the disaster type. So in the case of Daniel, you'll be taking the wildfire, and answering the question, are you at risk, and what can you do about it? What can you do about that risk? And what would you do if you were confronted with a major wildfire? So, and Jennifer, yeah, your name on your screen says Jennifer, but I know better than that. You're not Jennifer. So Rayanne, you would do drought, okay? Since you said drought was your or you can do hurricane if you prefer. Whichever you prefer, hurricane or drought. I don't think where you're located that you're at much risk of a hurricane, but definitely a risk for a drought. So you choose one of those. Again, whether you're at risk and what you could do about your risk, and what would you do if confronted by that type of disaster. Janice, you said, you also said wildfire, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you want to pick something different? You want to do, where you live, do you have a threat of tornado?
No. Should I do like the blizzards?
A blizzard, yeah, winter storm would be great. Blizzards would be a great one to do. Perfect. Damien, what would you like to do?
Let's see here. He hasn't
Assuming you can
answered
join
yet.
us again tomorrow.
He hasn't answered yet, but Daniel had responded 2,500 dead. Damien said his senior patrol leader is the oldest person there. And can we email it to his mom's email? Yes. Yes, we can. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I just need.
Janice says that Michigan is mostly known as a safe state.
Okay. Well, we'll the winter storm would be a good one for you then.
Mhm.
Let's pick one for Daniel and Damien though. So Damien, what would you like to do? We have, again, here in Wisconsin, we have the floods, tornadoes, straight line winds. We have all the weather type events. No tsunamis, no hurricanes.
Mhm.
How about Damien, how about you do tornadoes? And then Daniel, you're in Philly. What's Philly known for? Pardon?
Lexi's in Philly.
Lexi's in Philly, that's right. I'm sorry. I can't see the names. They're not on my screen.
Damien says flood.
Okay, Damien will do flood.
Daniel was the Peshtigo fire, what he talked about, but
Okay,
he lives in Milwaukee.
all right. So did we already assign wildfire? I don't remember now.
I don't think so.
Okay. So Daniel can do wildfire. And then who's Lexi? Lexi.
Rayanne says drought.
Yep. All right.
And Lexi said, would heat waves be one?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it would fit. So.
And Amy says, gotta hop off for another meeting at 1 o'clock, but I always thank you for including us.
All right, great. Good deal. So I'm just going to talk about in a general, big picture kind of thing, what you're going to do if you're confronted with a disaster, a potential disaster, because you're going to come back tomorrow and tell us what to do in these specific events, okay? But regardless of the type of disaster you're confronted with, you're going to have some type of warning, hopefully, right? You're going to have an early warning that you have a tornado or severe weather coming, or whether the severe weather be thunderstorm or rain or whatnot. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to assess the situation. How serious is the situation? Is it something that you need to evacuate from? Is it something that you can, have you ever heard the term shelter in place? What does shelter in place mean? Anybody want to try that one?
Isn't it like staying in like one place and not going outside or anything?
Perfect. So it could be sheltering in place. Could be staying, if you're in school, it could be staying in the school where they actually do a lockdown. So you're, and you may go into the safe areas of the school building in the event of a tornado or whatnot, or maybe it's a hazardous materials incident that's nearby and they don't want you outside breathing the air or whatnot. So, sheltering in place, you could be at home, and you could be out at the mall where you shelter in place, depending on the situation. You don't want to go outside if you have a severe thunderstorm with lightning nearby. You don't want to go outside, so you're going to shelter in place until that event passes. Seek clean air and protect breathing passages. So again, were you in a situation where you have toxic fumes and whatnot, or smoke from a wildfire or what, you'll want to, if you're going to shelter in place, if that's the right thing to do in a wildfire situation where you have a lot of smoke in the air, you're going to close up your windows. You're going to turn off your air handling, your air conditioner or whatnot, so that you're actually breathing clean air. If you're outside and you have smoke, how can you protect your breathing passages? The same way we're doing it from COVID-19 right now, right? You're going to wear a mask. Okay, you're going to wear, something, some kind of face guards, just a couple layers to breathe through. Protecting from debris. So if you're confronted with a potential for a tornado and you're going to shelter in your home, where's the safest place to shelter in your home? It's generally the inside corridors, right? Or if you have a basement, it's against one of the basement walls, away from windows, right? So that's generally going to protect you from debris. And following the tornado, if you are trapped, then you would signal for help. You can do that by dialing 911 from your phone or making loud noises or whatnot. Removing contaminants. If you were in a disaster and you had some hazardous chemicals or whatnot that was spilled on you, and those chemicals, it might not just be liquids, it could be powders, it could be that you had pesticides or stuff like that that were spilled on you, that you want to remove those from your clothing. And you want to practice good hygiene. Kind of the same thing we're doing with COVID-19, good hygiene.
Rayanne said that, well, she answered the question about sheltering in place, that you basically stay home and stay safe or wherever you are. And then she also mentioned that they had a gas leak in their school 2 years ago, and the safest place is away from the windows. And Damien had said the safest place is also the basement.
Right, and generally, and that's for generally tornadoes. The safest place is the basement, or if If you're in a building that doesn't have a basement, an interior hallway is generally the safest, away from windows. So let's take a couple of scenarios here. The first one, the entire state of Wisconsin is experiencing a severe winter storm. And Rand, I know you know what a winter storm is, even though you've never seen one. The snow and ice have caused power outages in every community. The communication lines are down and cellular towers have been affected. And I'm gonna need, let's see here, see if I can get the pictures up again. All right, so somebody tell me what agencies would be involved in that situation.
What do you mean by agencies?
Well, what kind of agencies would be handling a situation like a severe winter storm? Would your law enforcement would be involved? Your fire service, your EMS, certainly your public works people, the people that take care of snow removal, right? Emergency management, your emergency management folks would be involved. You might have other agencies that are not governmental agencies, like who else helps out in disasters that are not a government? Any thoughts? Red Cross, you know, these non-governmental organizations like the Red Cross and others that will come out and assist during a disaster. They may very well be involved. Because communication lines are down and cell towers have been affected, you're going to have the power companies out, you're going to have the telephone company out, and they're going to be trying to repair their damages. So do you shelter in place? The snow and ice have caused power outages in every community. Would you go somewhere? Would you shelter in place?
We have first responders, we, energies, us, US, whatever that is, and ourselves. Whoops.
Right.
I gotta keep up on the chat.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, I'm glad because I can't. So it takes two of us here, I guess. So.
Yep.
All right. So the question is, would you shelter in place? And absolutely, shelter in place. You don't want to go out in a severe winter storm. All you're doing is contributing to the problem. If you're out on the roadways, you're going to become somebody that needs to be rescued. What do you need to consider if you shelter in place? And Janice talked about this right up front. What's one of the first things you want to consider?
If you have enough supplies.
Yes, you want to have enough supplies. Yes. So the FEMA recommends having 72 hours worth of supplies on hand, enough food and water and medicines and whatnot to last you 72 hours. Generally speaking, in most disasters, help can get to you within 72 hours, so they can bring you the supplies you need after that. There are times it takes longer, but generally speaking, you're going to get help within the first 72 hours of a disaster. When do you evacuate? If snow and ice have caused power outages and communication lines are down and cell towers have been affected and you're sheltering in place, when would you consider evacuating?
When it's safe?
When it's safe. And you would also consider evacuating if your shelter became unsafe. You had the snow caused a roof collapse, or say that you have no possible way to get heat or stay warm. So you may have to go to a shelter to stay warm. All right, let's take another. Pardon?
Rand says if you need supplies.
And if you need supplies, right? If you need supplies, that's another reason that you might leave your shelter, leave your home. So, all right. So another scenario here is a train carrying ammonium nitrate fertilizer collides with a semi at a railroad crossing in the middle of town. Ammonium nitrate fertilizer is a hazardous chemical. What emergency agencies would you expect to be involved in that?
Firefighters, Rand
All
says,
right.
and police, cops.
All right.
Daniel says Hazer,
Hazmat.
hazmat, probably, yep.
Yeah.
Damien says EMTs.
Right. Right. So this happened in the middle of town. Would you shelter in place?
Rand says paramedics.
Paramedics, right. Yep. Would you shelter in place? So generally speaking, remember that that guidebook that Tom trained you on? It has evacuation distances and whatnot.
Rand says no. Damien says depends. And Rand says you would evacuate the area.
Okay, and both answers are correct. I was just telling you what I was going to say was it really does depend on whether or not you're in a zone that requires evacuation, and you're going to have to rely upon emergency responders to let you know that. So they're either going to tell you to evacuate or tell you to shelter in place. If you're in the immediate hazard area, generally speaking, they're going to have you evacuate. If you're outside the immediate hazard area, they're going to ask you to shelter in place, and they're going to have you close up your windows and turn off your air handling systems and things like that, so that you're breathing clean air. Again, what would you need to consider if you shelter in place? It's really the same types of things. You want to make sure you have supplies on hand. You want to make sure that your shelter can stay safe. Okay, so if it ever becomes unsafe to be there, or if that emergency becomes worse and you're now in the hazard area, you want to consider evacuating. What would you need to prepare for evacuation?
Enough supplies, Rand says.
Enough supplies. Enough supplies for what? For who? In the case of Rayanne, it's not just enough supplies for your family. It's enough supplies for that whole zoo that you're going to take with you, right? So you're going to have to take dog food and cat food and enough to take care of your animals also, because you don't want to leave them behind if you're evacuating, right? You want to make sure you have any medicines that you might need if you're taking medicine. So
Rand says for your family and pets. Well, then the supplies will be for your family and pets.
right. What do we mean by the last bullet point there? The accountability. What does that mean? So you want people that will be looking for you know where you went. So if you're going to be evacuating your home, you're going to want to send a message, either a text message or a phone call or whatnot to maybe your grandparents or a family that live in the next town or whatnot. Let them know that you're evacuating and here's where we're going to be going. We're going to go to the Holiday Inn in Fort Worth, or we're going to go to the Days Inn in Madison. So so that they know where to find you. And if for some reason you're taking different cars and whatnot, accountability also means that, okay, we're planning on being at the Days Inn by 7 p.m. and we need to check in with one another when we get there. So that's what we mean by accountability. Accountability is what you do like in a fire drill. Just had a power outage. Where your teachers go out, when you go out to school and your teachers do a head count, that's accountability, making sure everybody is accounted for. Okay? Any questions? All right. Stuff that you and your parents should do in preparing for a disaster. You want to learn about community alerts, warnings, and evacuation routes. Does everybody in their community have warning sirens? Or do you have alert systems on your pager or your cell phone, excuse me? How do you get your emergency alerts in your community? Do you have a weather radio? It varies considerably by communities. It used to be that everybody was alerted to severe weather and tornadoes and whatnot by sirens. And sirens are going away now, and they're replacing them with messages that come across weather radios and cell phones. So, but know how you would get.
Brian's cell phone.
Okay, great. Yeah, so know how you're going to get those community alerts and warnings. And if in some cases they make you have to sign up for those things. So you want to take a look at your cell phone and you want to take a look at what warnings are available in your community alert systems, and you want to sign up for those. We're getting a little long here, guys, so I'm going to speed up a little bit. Because I don't want to keep you on too long here. You want to take training about disaster preparedness, and that's what you're doing now. And there's other training that's available. I'm going to talk about some more training that's available to you here in a minute. You want to, oh, actually, let me back up here a second and talk about evacuation routes, particularly those of you that are faced with winter storms, or it's really a big thing for hurricane areas is knowing what the evacuation routes are. Practice your skills and personal plans. You want to have a plan. We're going to talk, we talked about some kinds of plans. We talked about home evacuation plans, right? And you want, so you want to practice those things periodically. So you don't want to, when it comes time to use it, you want to know what you're doing. You want it to be second nature. You want to have a preparedness kit. We've talked about that a couple of times now. And I will tell you that one of your activities for the rest of this week, by Friday, I'd like you to develop a preparedness kit for your home. And we're going to talk about that here in a second. The things that you can do also is give feedback to your community. If there isn't a good alert system, warning system or whatnot, you're going to let the emergency management director in your community know that you need a better plan. You want to report suspicious activities, right? It helps take care of that terrorism risk. If you see something, say something, right? And you can volunteer in your community. Let's spend just a couple minutes talking about what items are needed in a preparedness kit. What would you think if you're going to take care of yourself for 72 hours? What kind of things? And this could be that you're staying at home, sheltering in place, or you're taking this kit on the road with you because you have to evacuate. So you would need the same types of things, but what kinds of things would those be?
First aid. Janice said.
Right. Yeah, so we talked about the food, the water, right? I'm going to go to the next slide here and just give you some ideas.
Damien says an emotional support animal.
Emotional support animals, good. Yeah, so Rayanne's got a few of those. So.
Ann says food, water, toys, games, first aid kit, blankets, and bedding.
All right, perfect. And clothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And any medicines that you need, and medicines would include things like just Tylenol and things like, just take care of fevers or aches and pains. So here's an emergency supply list, and there's a number of different ones out there, but this is the one that FEMA had put together for teenagers. Using this or whatever list that you want to come up with, I'd like you to put together your own emergency supply kit for your home, okay? Working with your siblings or your parents, you can come up with an emergency supply kit for your home. It'd be a really good activity. So 3 days worth of non-perishable food, 3 days worth of water, a can opener, first aid kit, sleeping bag or warm blankets for everyone in the family, a change of clothes, matches, toothbrush, toothpaste, soap, paper plates, plastic cups and utensils, paper towels. Now, you don't need to get all this. If you don't have this at home right now, I'm not going to tell you have to go on a shopping spree and drain your bank account getting it. But what ultimately I would like you to all think about and put together an emergency preparedness kit for your home. It's important that everyone have one, okay? When we talk about water, the water is 1 gallon per person per day, okay? That's how much water you should have on hand. Batteries, battery-powered radios or hand crank radios, flashlights with extra batteries, phone chargers for your cell phones because you may not be able to plug it into the wall, right? So you have these external battery packs you could use. Pet supplies, baby supplies, only if you have babies, I guess. Books, games, and puzzles. And a favorite stuffed animal or blanket or a real animal or blanket. Personal protective equipment. If you're going to be helping out after a disaster, you're going to want to have the right kind of personal protective equipment, which includes good boots, goggles, flashlight, helmet, work gloves, disposable gloves, and a mask. Let's see here. Getting involved, preparedness requires active participation. Talk to your friends and family about the hazards. Ask about emergency planning outside the home, and make sure those in charge have a plan. And most often, those in charge are your parents, right? All right, so training provides skills needed to help others. The Ready Camp provides training, practice, and connection to others, especially our resident camp where you actually are, your camp where you're actually able to come to camp. Hopefully next year, well, that's going to be the case. Participating in drills and exercises. Often, if your local fire department, your local emergency management agency is having an exercise, they may invite participation from the community. Those are opportunities for you to be involved. And you can talk to friends and family about volunteering, what kind of opportunities might be available to you for volunteering in your community. You could, Red Cross is one of those places. As part of Ready Camp, we talk about community projects, and there's things you could do as a community project, helping your neighbors that might need assistance, distributing preparedness materials, and you can staff first aid booths at special events. You can assist with installation of smoke alarms, things like that you can do as community projects. I wanted to talk to you more about learning. If you want to really learn more about anything that we're covering in Ready Camp, the one thing that wasn't available years ago, but is available now, even to teenagers, is you can do certain FEMA independent study courses. These are all online courses. It requires the first time that you go online to get a FEMA student identification number. So I'm going to send this out to you all. You're going to have a link that you can click on. And you can sign up to get a FEMA student identification number. And then once you have that identification number, you can take any number of, there's a lot of independent study classes out there online. And here's the link to those. It's going to, again, I'm going to be sending it out to you. All their classes are free, and all result in, if you pass them, you all result in getting a certificate of completion. So I meant to mention this yesterday when Tom was talking about ICS, the Incident Command System, because there's a number of classes, but probably one of the really good ones is the FEMA 100, ICS 100 class, the Introduction to the Incident Command System. There's also a IS 700 class, Introduction to the National Incident Command System. Now, you know, some of these things, some of these classes may be a little tough, but again, they're self-paced. You don't have an instructor teaching you. You're actually just going through the materials yourself. Some have a lot of videos to watch, and others just some. Actually, most of them right now are interactive videos that you're watching the video and you're answering questions. Another class that we're going to be talking about, Basic Emergency Center. We're going to be talking about Emergency Operations Center functions this week, and other classes, Basic Emergency Operations Center functions. So these classes, these are if you really want to learn more about these subjects, or you want to become really educated, or you're thinking about a career in law enforcement or the fire service or emergency management. All these classes will help you, first of all, decide whether or not that's what you want to do. And it'll also give you a head start, a leg up on people that haven't had these classes. So some of the other resources I'm going to provide for you, I'm going to be sending this out, or Mary Jean will be sending this PowerPoint out to you, is FEMAReady.gov. I think Amy talked to you about that, Ready Teens page. Another page on the Ready page is the Disasters and Emergency and Disaster Facts page. Both of those are going to be very helpful in doing tomorrow's exercise. So you want to, if you don't remember anything, if you don't get this slideshow right away, you can just click on there, ready.gov, www.ready.gov, and everything you're going to need to do tomorrow's activity is going to be on that page, okay? In fact, everything you're going to need if you want additional resources for putting together a disaster kit are also going to be on that ready.gov page. There's also YouTube videos out there, a whole host of them. You can just, the FEMA YouTube channel has a lot of different videos about disasters and emergency preparedness and emergency planning. There's a good YouTube on introduction to emergency planning and preparing makes sense. For virtually every kind of disaster, you can learn more about that. And I just pulled examples of our tornadoes. There are two really neat videos about the science behind a tornado. How do they form? So I'm going to send you those links. But if you say you're not so much interested about tornadoes, but you are interested about blizzards, yeah, you can go to YouTube and Google blizzards, and you'll get all kinds of videos about blizzards. So that's our presentation for today. Again, your activity for tomorrow is to take that, you become your expert on that type of disaster that we assigned you, okay? So you're gonna talk about whether or not you're at risk. You're gonna talk about what you can do to minimize your risk and what you would do if you're confronted with that disaster, okay?
Janice asked, do we do a presentation, or what should they do?
Yes, I'd like you to either do a PowerPoint slide or two, or just do a poster board or something with, you know, something graphic to display answers to those questions. Okay. So you're going to be doing like a 5-minute presentation tomorrow back to us.
I have one more question. So for the presentation, do we talk about like other than risk, do we also talk about like in like general facts about the natural disaster, like how it forms and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. You certainly could do that. That would be great.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Daniel, Damien, any questions?
Nothing coming across the chat.
All right. We must have lost our other student, our other camper there. All right, well, folks, our guys and gals, campers, that's it for today. Thanks for, I'm sorry I went a little long today, but it was a lot to cover. So I appreciate you sticking with me, and we'll, I look forward to seeing your presentations tomorrow.
Damien says, okay, see you tomorrow.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. Thanks, everyone.